that that stage show thing out, under my belt. So he did it, and we did a thing where he would introduce me, and he pretended to hypnotize me, and then he stuck these needles through my arms. They were great big long needles, right? So I'm standing there hypnotized with these needles stuck through my arms. It's magic. It wasn't, no damage was done. So anyway, so then he unhypnotizes me, and I'm supposed to forget everything. That was kind of the opening act. And then I'd introduce him, and then he'd go and do his act. But when he came out in the second half to introduce me, I just hypnotized him for real, and because he wasn't expecting it. So, and I just said to him, apparently Adam hypnotized me and stuck his needles through my arm. I have no recollection of it. So I'm going to get him back. So he's standing in trance. So I said to him, Adam, I said, in a moment, I'll touch you on the shoulder. You'll open your eyes. Everything will seem normal, except you won't be able to walk. You'll only be able to pogo. Right. So, and it was the first show I'd done. So he's gone pogoing off the stage. And I just forgot about him, to be honest, because it was all a bit exciting for me. And I just let him go. Anyway, my son Anthony, luckily, was there. And 10 minutes later, he's found Adam standing at the top of this flight of steps, desperate to go to the toilet, but no idea how to get down the steps because he could only pogo. And he had no idea to get down these steps. So Anthony had to take him out of trance so that he could go to the toilet. I just forgot about him completely. And he was pogoing around the place. Yeah, it's quite mad. Luckily, Anthony was there. Otherwise, he'd have been trapped. But yeah, it's good fun. It was really good fun.
Well, perfect. Well, I think we've got everybody on. I think Andrea had to log out and she's coming back. But today I wanted to do something, and Freddie, you can help me with this, is I wanted to work on state mastery. And this is something that's come up a few times for me lately. I watched one of the Star Wars movies recently, and
Are you recording, Nick?
Yeah,
Oh,
I think
good.
so.
Yeah, good.
Says it is, yeah. So Caitlin just jumped on. So we're doing a call on state mastery. I was just watching, I was saying, one of the Star Wars movies, the newer ones. And the main character is this female, and her name's Rey. And she's tied up to this table or chair, and she's got these like wrist things and leg things on. And she says to one of the guards, "You will release these clamps and leave the door open as you leave." And the guard kind of scoffs at her for a second, and she repeats it and says, "You will release these clamps and leave the door open when you leave." And she says it a third time, and every time she gets a little bit more certainty, and she becomes a little bit more influential. And I was just thinking, like, for the average person, that seems unbelievable to just say something and somebody to just follow through on your command. But the thing that holds that together, the thing that makes that possible, is your state. Your state of mind, your physical, mental, emotional state is the most influential thing you possess. And what you say matters very little beyond that state. So everything you say will complement that. But if you remember, like 55% of our communication is nonverbal. So most of that is in our body language and in our tonality and how we're feeling. I'm sure you've all had this experience where you're like anxious and you go to talk to somebody and they just reflect that back to you, or you're impatient and they reflect that back to you, or you're feeling charismatic and that person just reflects it back to you. What happens is everyone has mirror neurons, and we have a proprioceptive energy field around us that picks up on everyone else. And so when somebody walks into a room, we feel it. And if they're impatient, we feel that. And then we feel rushed, and we feel like, and we reflect that back to them. We're going to resist their energy. But if they come in and they're feeling charismatic and grateful and connecting, you're going to reflect that back to them. You're going to be attracted to that person. And so everything in our life is a reflection of our state, even the quality of our thoughts. So as we change our state, we will have different thought patterns. And I was playing with this today because I'm trying to ship a load of materials from Canada to the US, and there's just all these hoops to jump through. And so as a hoop would come up, as this barrier, I would feel my internal state like condense, like I would feel it contract. Have any of you experienced this where something negative happens and you feel this like instant contraction in your energy field, that then reflects back to everyone around us. And most people, they get stuck in those states of focusing on the problem. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to play a little bit with different states. We're going to recognize when states fire, and we're going to make what's in our mind, we're going to have our internal states determine our external state and not the other way around. So we're not going to be at the cause of everything that happens to us in our lives, right? Because it's so easy. We get like a notification and something negative happens, or someone responds to us in a certain way. And our body, our internal state is affected by that. And so we change. But if we can master our state, even when it feels like something is happening to us, if we can maintain our internal state and our internal certainty, and we can feel that sense of charisma and presence and confidence and ease all the time, no matter what, everything in our life will reflect that back to us. And our thought patterns, the solutions that we'll be able to find will be there, and thoughts that we can find in a resourceful state, we wouldn't be able to find when we're stuck in that problem state. Everybody's experienced this, right? Everybody knows what I'm talking about here? Okay. You guys want to play a little bit today? Well, and when we're doing, most of our hypnosis work is just clearing anchors and creating anchors. So when somebody sees a cigarette, it's a trigger for them to have an urge to go smoke. Well, what if they had a different urge instead? What if we just collapsed that trigger and gave them a trigger to feel confident or to do something else? What if, when you see your mother-in-law, you get anxious about it? What if instead of that, like that's just a trigger to a state? What if we just trained in a different trigger to that stimulus? And so if we can set up positive states and positive triggers and teach you how to manage those and go in and out of those at will, would your life be better? All right, so give me some feedback here. And Freddie, feel free to chime in. What states would you like to experience more of? And actually, before I ask that question, I had a thought earlier today. People that are, let's say, people that are suicidal or have thoughts of wanting to die, they don't actually want to die. They just want to be free from a certain state. And when you realize it's just a feeling that they have, and they don't know how to shift out of it. So we're going to learn that today, is how to shift out of it in just moments. And whether that's, people that claim to have anxiety and depression, and usually, as long as there's not a physiological thing under it, usually knowing what we know and what we're going to do here, you can help somebody shift out of those states in moments and to go, you know what? My mind is quiet for the first time ever. That voice that's talking down to me, like it's not there anymore. Because in one state, that voice that's condescending to you is there, and then you can change your state, and that voice won't be there. It's not on that frequency. So all we have to do is train you into that frequency. We can practice that a little bit. All right, so now I want to hear from you. What states would you like to experience more of?
I just want to be more playful, just lighter.
Playful's a great one.
It's just, and how playful can I be? How often can I be in that state? Like, can I do my work in a playful state? Can I be more productive in a playful state?
I would think so. How playful can I be is a great presupposition, because it presupposes you can be playful. Playfulness is an excellent one, and that's why I said that's what we're doing today, is we're going to play a little bit.
I was just talking to somebody who's proofreading and one of my books, and it's really difficult for Nick's probably finding it. I know my son finds it, because I live in a playful state, and that's not, when it comes to business, it's quite frustrating for other people who find me not as serious maybe as I should be. And so I know it's difficult, but I can't really change. And it's just, I do get things done, but I just find it hard to stay serious for too long. So, careful what you wish for, Caitlin. You might just end up like me, frustrating everyone around you because why is she so happy all the time? So, but it's a nice place to be.
Well, it's good to be able to move through different states in different contexts, right? Like Caitlin, we do the warrior state at the event, and that's a really powerful state. But like, you don't want to live in the warrior state where you just basically smash everything and like blast through everything with certainty, because you're going to burn a lot of bridges. But there's moments where that state is very useful. Yes, Blaine.
Be a playful warrior. That's what I'd say.
There you go.
Yeah.
Dorian says flow. Yeah, Blaine.
So do you know when you're happy in your own little world and you can feel someone's negativity, like so I just go vroom, put on the cloak or whatever. But to be in that state of, and sometimes I learned to think, isn't it interesting? Just to be detached, that's the word.
Detached. That's
Detached
good.
from
Okay.
all the crap that's all around you. And you can see it all happening, but it's totally what is it? Not my circus, not my monkeys.
But it's once you develop the skill and you're in a state of playfulness and curiosity, then that person comes in with the negative energy and you're like, oh, this is a game, let's play. Let me connect where they are and see what state I can take them to and how long it takes me to get them into a resourceful state. And when you can do that, when people come to you in a negative state and you shift them into a positive state, pretty soon they're going to associate those feelings to spending time with you, and they're going to want to be around you. But if you're like, oh, this person's negative, like get them away from me, right? Like, what are you missing out on?
Well, sometimes misery loves company. So it really annoys them when I'm still, oh yeah, it doesn't affect, it's as if they're waiting for me to chime in with more negative stuff, but I
Because
just go there.
That's their frame of mind. So imagine like if you're on different levels and one person's down here and they're talking this way, but it's not connecting with you, but you're up in this positive state talking this way, it's not gonna connect with them. So you got to get into that rapport, and then once you're in rapport, you can lead them anywhere you want to go. That's the skill of a master influencer. And I know sometimes you're just like, you know what, I don't want to mess, like, I'm not going to deal with that right now. And I totally understand that because I get there too. But when you're feeling really confident and really charismatic and playful, then you get to lead people. All right. Anyone else have any specific requests here? All right, let's play a little bit. So yeah, Blaine.
I've just seen, where's it gone? Yeah, Doreen, that's brilliant. The flow state, that's lovely.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's beautiful.
Okay, excellent. So what we're gonna do here is I'm actually gonna start you off in what you would call a negative state. I want you to really like feel that negative state for just a moment. And then I'm gonna have you find the anecdote for that, the opposite of that. And so you're gonna be like, oh, I was feeling insecure. What do I want to feel instead? Oh, I want to feel confident, or I want to feel calm. And then I'm gonna take you back to a time when you felt that. We're gonna amplify that feeling, and you're gonna hold that in your physiology, and you're gonna go back into the same negative trigger state, and notice that while you're holding that physiology, you can't feel the negative emotions anymore. So we're gonna start to collapse that. We'll strengthen it, and we'll just we'll play a little bit here. Martin said antidote. Did I say anecdote? Am I telling short stories here instead of finding the cure? Okay, maybe it's a little bit of both, Martin. Sometimes stories are the cure. All right, so let's start off. Close your eyes and just get comfortable for a moment. Sit straight up if you can. And imagine in the center of your being, in the core of who you are, there's a little ball of light. And notice the colors of that ball. the feeling of the vibration and frequency of that ball. And imagine that ball slowly drifting upwards, up through your chest, maybe through your throat, through your face, into your brain, glowing and shining brightly inside of your head. And notice that ball flowing up through the top of your head with a little string, a little silver cord that goes down through you. And see that ball drifting just a couple feet above your head. And get a sense of that ball moving forward out in front of you, and feel it pulling you ever so gently forward. And get a sense of that ball just drifting above you, but behind. And feeling that ever so subtle and gentle pull backwards. Feel it moving to the right. And to the left. Good. And feel that ball drifting back inside of you now into your heart space. Glowing and shining brightly. Ready for you to be playful, knowing that you can move easily and quickly through all kinds of states. Because states are just different experiences, different frequencies. And I want you to think of a time when you felt deeply connected with someone. You felt a sense of love and belonging. And put yourself back into that experience. And notice the feelings in your body. And move your body language, your posture, your facial expressions to match that experience. And breathe like you were breathing during that experience. And notice that feeling getting even stronger. And that picture getting more vivid and brighter. Feeling that sense of love and connection. If that had a color, what color would it be? And feel that color flowing through you, around you, within you, in every cell. And as you're breathing this way, in this posture, surrounded by this color, imagine trying to feel a negative emotion. Hold this posture and really imagine trying to feel a negative emotion and notice what happens instead. Notice that you can master your state in just a few moments. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to practice a variety of these resourceful states. And from this state, notice what thoughts you're having. Are they good and beautiful thoughts? Are they thoughts of appreciation and positivity? How creative are you in this state? In a moment, I'm going to have you take a few deep breaths and move this state through you, coming back into a neutral state. Your eyes will open and you'll be ready to share your experience and play some more. So go ahead and take a deep breath in through the top of your head. And exhale all of that energy out, just resetting. One more breath. Inhale. Exhale that energy out, opening your eyes whenever you're ready. Judging by some of your faces, that looked like a pretty positive experience. I meant to do SUDS before we did that, so subjective units of distress. But basically, like, I wanted to see what kind of a state all of you were in. So if you remember, which now that you're feeling good, it's hard to remember that, isn't it? But when you got on the call, like, were you like, I'm a 3 out of 10? Like, where do you think you were? And then where were you after this process? I did this a couple years ago I was at a high school for one of my friends' classes, and I did like a little guest lecture. And I had this girl say she was at a -5 when we started, and then she was at a 10 when we were done. And they had no idea they could change their state like that. For you guys, this is like, oh yeah, we do this. This is fun. This is a good experience, good practice. For them, life-changing to realize they had control over something like that. So how was everybody's experience on our first little practice round here? Got one thumbs up. Doreen, you looked like you were feeling pretty good. Blaine, you too. Maria, good. Okay. All right, so does everyone have something that's has been a negative, what we would call a negative emotion recently that they'd like to shift out of? Couple people? Okay. So I guess how strong, without no hypnosis, just how strong out of 10 can you get that state right now? Andrea says a 10. 10. Oh, we got some strong states. 8, 9. Okay. And you can share, but you don't have to if you want to think about what you would call that state or that feeling, because it is just a feeling, right? Like it's a pattern of thinking that you've been running, or a meaning that you've been giving. And you know, if you change the way of thinking, that we can change how we feel about it. And when we change how we feel about it, the whole world expands into opportunity. Yes, Andrea.
Okay. Can't quite put the word to it other than anger. And
Okay.
it's fairly recent state, as in the last 3 weeks, but I've been trying to ignore it because I've got things to do. But ultimately, the person I ended a relationship with a year ago was a mechanic who was supposed to have serviced and replaced some key components in my car. It went for its MOT 12 months later and came out 3 weeks ago with a catastrophic failure that could have killed me and all my passengers, because the work he was supposed to have done didn't do it. And it was a steering problem. And it wasn't just something that would have happened in the last 12 months, because I've not done the amount of mileage to warrant that kind of damage. And knowing that he is psychopathic and narcissistic, I am sure it was deliberate. So I'm pretty hacked off, as you can imagine.
Did everyone feel a state change there? Everybody notice that? So anger's got some usefulness, right? Like, because you're using it to protect your, that brings some certainty to protect you and your family, and so I totally understand that. Okay. And so if you could just feel differently about that situation, how much better would your life be?
Oh, yeah, a lot better.
Okay. All right. We'll see what we can do here. That's a great chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sarah. Yeah. Sarah?
Were you done, Andrea? It sounded like you had something else to say. Okay. Okay, so mine is restriction. Like, just feel like I'm my own worst enemy. I'm in the process of recreating my website, like rebranding myself. And I have such a, like, it's like resistance. Maybe it's not restriction, but resistance to doing it. Just doing it, sitting down and doing it. I'll find something else to do, and then I'll come back to it, and then I'll get into it, and then I won't look at it for a couple more days. So I'm purposefully, like, stunting my own growth, if you will, because once I get this done, it's this beautiful landing page for potential clients. And it's like, I'm trying to figure out why. So I don't really know the why. I just know that it's happening and it's affecting me. And I want to get out of that state. I want to get into the state, I guess, of flow, like flow or creativity.
Have you ever read the War of Art by Stephen Pressfield?
You know what? I have that book in storage in California. I never read it, but I have it.
The audiobook's pretty good too. You can get that.
Okay.
But, so basically, like, have any of you ever, I'm sure Sarah's the only one, right, that experiences knowing there's something positive that you need to do that would change your life and you hesitate on it and you procrastinate and you can't figure out why? She's definitely the only person, right?
But Nick, this is like my whole life. This is
Uh-huh.
like a pattern that's been my entire life up to this point.
Yeah. So Stephen Pressfield calls that resistance, and people find, because it's putting you, and in a way it's putting you on the line. Like, you're like, this is my calling, I know it, but what happens if I do my calling and it doesn't work out? Or, you know, like, there's this, like, my true nature is here. Like, if I do something that's less meaningful, it doesn't work out, big deal. But you give it this meaning, and so you develop this resistance inside. And so we can, that's a state. That's a state of mind, and you can overcome that. And I have a process, like an evening process, that sets you up for the following day that crushes all of that, because I've been doing it recently. And it's basically like a mental rehearsal state change process. And I notice on days when I do it, I have zero resistance the next day to doing the things I need to do. And when I don't do it, it's like almost impossible to willpower through it. You know
Yeah.
what I'm talking about?
I have tried to willpower through it. Like, actually, just before this call, I got a little bit of it done, but I keep on rewriting the copy. Like, I can't seem to get it perfect enough. So I've rewritten it like 10 times. It's crazy.
So I was listening to something today, talking about copywriting is a state management task. In one state, you're going to have great copy and it's going to be so clear to you. In a different state, you're going to be like, I can't quite figure this out. I need to rewrite it. Like, this doesn't quite sound right. Like, I'm doing it just to get it done. But what happens is, and I talk about this, like the alpha brainwaves, when you mentally rehearse the next day, it's a little bit off topic, but if you mentally rehearse the next day in a trance state, like, so elevated alpha or theta waves, you're rehearsing going into that state in the context of writing copy. So what I would do, if I had to write a piece of copy, I do this, like, I plan my day, and then I mentally rehearse the day, but I speak it out loud. So I would say, I wake up, I'm feeling, and I use my like facial expressions, and I'm feeling refreshed, I'm feeling energized. I get a cup of coffee, I do a few push-ups, I take a cold shower, I'm feeling great. I sit down to write copy and it just flows for me. And I'm feeling creative, and I'm getting this message across to this type of person. And you don't have to worry about the how. It's just, you're setting up the state and the feeling and the experience. And you speak it and you feel it. And I do that for the whole day. And if I get interrupted at any point, I'll start over and do it again until you can do the whole day through like that. And once you can do the whole day through from memory, it's in there. Go to sleep and you'll wake up and you'll just have this urge to do the thing.
That sounds great.
So what we're doing here is we're going to rehearse different states. And then when there's that trigger that used to trigger you to procrastinate or to be angry, you're going to now have a different experience. A different state's going to fire. Does that sound like it would be useful? Everyone can kind of relate to what Sarah's talking about. We all have something on the top of our to-do list that's been there for like 3 months, and it shouldn't be that big of a deal. And it's the one thing that's going to move us forward, but we're procrastinating on it, right? Okay. Kaylin says, is this the performance protocol? Yeah, essentially, sort of. I mean, most things I do are performance in some way, because we want to preform in our mind the experience, whether that's the state, the performance, the interaction, the connection with people. When you preform it ahead of time, you tell your subconscious how to show up, and it will automatically fire that state in the context that you rehearsed. And so why leave it to chance and willpower when we can train it ahead of time with some simple exercises? All right, you guys ready? You got that state in mind? All right, so get comfortable. You close your eyes. And take a deep breath and exhale. And you know that hypnosis is a state of heightened awareness and allowing. You can close your eyes if you haven't yet. And just allow what you were calling that negative state. Just allow yourself to feel it without judgment, knowing that in some way there's a positive purpose to it. Maybe it's protecting you. Maybe it's trying to inform you. And as you feel it and notice it, notice your body language, notice your breathing, notice your facial expressions, notice where you hold tension. And as you do, you realize this is just a temporary and transient state. And there are certain thoughts and feelings connected to it that can completely dissolve once you change your state. And from this state, think of a more useful resource state. So instead of resistance, you might have flow. Instead of anger, you might have a sense of certainty or a sense of gratitude that you're safe. Find that the antidote, as Martin would say, to that state. And think of a name for that. What would you call the opposite of this state? And once you've named that resourceful state, take yourself back to a time when you felt that state stronger than ever. You could even imagine a time. Remember or imagine that time of feeling that resourceful state, that state of flow, that state of calm, maybe productivity, the state of heightened playfulness. And see what you saw and really step in and allow that feeling to flow through your body. Notice your breathing change into that state. Notice your facial expressions change. Your posture, sit or stand like you would sit or stand. Feel the energy of that state flow through you. Feel that sense of expansion, creativity. Notice your thoughts changing. And if this feeling, if this state had a color, what color would it be? And imagine that color swirling around you, flowing through you, emanating through your aura. And try to go back to that negative state and notice what happens instead. Notice that as you hold this breathing and this posture and these facial expressions, that it's impossible to feel that old state, isn't it? In fact, you may feel this state get even stronger. And from this state, what do you notice about that old state, about that old situation? Maintaining that breathing, that posture, those facial expressions, and that color around you, what do you notice about that old situation? And where else in your life would you like to feel this way? Where else would you like to feel this state of flow and playfulness, creativity? joy, and take this state with you into that other context. Imagine that new experience in this state. And know that anytime from now on that you step into this context, this state will automatically fire. Your breathing will change, your posture will change, your emotional state will shift, and you will feel this resourceful state take hold. And there's nothing that you can do about it. Know that anytime from now on, you enter into this specific context that you are imagining, this resource state will automatically trigger and fire. And you will feel all of these positive emotions instantly and automatically. And as your subconscious mind takes those instructions, you can notice this feeling inside of you, knowing that you can shift into it at any time. And when you're ready, you can come back into that neutral state with a few deep breaths, a few audible exhale sighs, letting it go completely. Deep in, deep out, finding that neutral state, priming your nervous system for your direction. Noticing how good you feel. Noticing all of the changes that have taken on a deep subconscious level as soon as your eyes open, feeling present, neutral, and good. Andrea, how'd we do?
Shed loads better. Thank you.
Yeah, good. And I'm sure there's some forgiveness exercises and a few things that will help this as well. But you start to feel different about it, and if it doesn't take many of those. Sometimes it's just one, and anytime you step into that old context, the restore state fires instead of the old one. You do that a couple times with a couple different contexts in your life, and pretty soon those negative emotions don't need to fire at all, do they? In fact, you may completely forget that you ever even had those negative emotions. All right, Sarah, how'd you do?
That was interesting. I felt my body like want to pull backwards, and then it started pulling to the right really profoundly because I started thinking of all the other places where I could make changes, mostly related to my business. But it's like I didn't want to come out of it.
Good. I did notice you leaning, yeah, for sure. And don't think about all of the places that positive emotion is going to show up automatically. Like you don't even really have to worry about that at all. Sometimes it just happens naturally, and you may completely forget that it's already installed, and you may just find yourself being even more creative every day for no reason at all.
Fantastic.
The understanding that nothing exists outside of your skull except its perception. And that goes for all of our emotions. I know I'm not denigrating us as human beings, but all of those emotions, all those things that are holding us back are no more than electrically excitable cells in your brain firing off to a certain stimulus. And when we realize that, and as Nick was saying earlier, we can change our posture and we can change our state. You cannot feel depressed and exercise at the same time. You just can't do it because the chemicals that are released by exercising override the depression chemicals. So when you think about it like that, then we can think, I was thinking about Andrea more than anything else. You know, when we're, and Andrea has a right to feel angry about someone who's, you know, could have possibly killed her and people she loves. It's a right to be angry. But then you say, is this anger, is it beneficial in any way? And my thinking on when someone makes you angry or makes you upset or hurts you in some way, and especially when that person's not around, all the time we're holding on to that negative emotion, we're allowing that person to continue to do us damage. And at some point, realizing that it is an emotion, and we can choose whether we want to hold that emotion or not, we can just change it on the basis of, does this emotion benefit me or not? And I know it's kind of a strange thing to say, you know. So as Nick was saying, in the case of Sarah, what state does she need to be in to finish your website and create the business you want? What state do you need to be in? Because you can just step into that state. You can say, this state that I'm in at the moment doesn't suit me. Do anything, jump up and down, run around the block, do anything, dance, to interrupt the state you're in, and then choose the state you want to be in. And that's what we can all do. We just seem to accept, this is the way I'm feeling, and it's just the way it is. But when we understand that none of that is real, nothing exists outside our skull except for those chemicals firing off, we can choose. We can choose on the basis, does this emotion, does this state benefit me or not? No. Interrupt it. Do something crazy. Dance to your favorite music for 5 minutes. You know, do anything to interrupt that pattern, and then choose how you want to be next. That's what we can all do, but we don't understand it. And often, and I understand it, Andrea, we can indulge ourselves in an emotion. I have a right to be angry, so I'm going to feel that anger. I'm going to indulge myself in that feeling. And not only am I going to suffer, but everyone around me is going to suffer, which is the worst thing about it. And the person that deserves that anger is not there. That's the worst part of it. You know, and it's still, that person is still affecting you. I've so often people say to me, you know, I quit smoking with you 6 months ago, and you know, my partner was, you know, had an affair, and I started smoking again. Or, you know, I blah blah blah, I was on this diet and someone upset me, so I went and indulged myself with a bit of cake, and I'm putting that weight back on. And I say, every time you put that cigarette in your mouth, it might as well be your ex putting that cigarette in your mouth. Go and have another cigarette. Kill yourself. You know, the person that upset you and you're eating for comfort, you know, have another bit of cake, put on another 2 stone. You know, and you've got to say, no, I'm not going to let that person do that to me. And I'm going to be happy. You know, there is that saying, isn't there? Let living well be your revenge. And I love that saying. You know, let living well be your revenge. For you, Sarah, you know, being super successful, let that be your revenge for anyone that's ever held you
Just
back.
thinking, like, I could put that on my website, because, like, let living well be your revenge. I think that would be a great tagline.
Yeah, because that's the best way to do it, isn't it?
Yeah,
Being
For your
happy.
market, that's a great tagline.
I
You know
know.
what?
I love it.
You know what upsets someone who's wants to do you damage? What upsets them more than you being happy and living your best life? You know, let that be your revenge,
That's
rather
awesome.
than holding on to the emotion, the negative emotion they placed on you. Go, no, I'm not doing that. No, I'm going to be living well. I'm going to look great. I'm going to feel great. I'm going to be out there living my best life. That's going to really wind them up. You know, if you want to get your own back, for want of a better way of saying it, live that life. You know, be as successful as you can be. Just so you know you can do it, rather than holding on. It's easy to do it. You know, I had a situation years ago. This woman came and see me. She wanted to lose 5 stone, and she was angry. She had a son of 10 years old. And when she was pregnant with this boy, her partner gave her a sexually transmitted disease while she was pregnant. So she accused him of, having an affair. He, as most men do, said, no, it's not me. It must be you. He denied it completely. In the end, he admitted it, and he was doing what, I don't know what they call it in other parts of the world, what they call dogging, where you pull up in a lay-by in your car and you sleep or you have sex with whoever or whatever is in the next car along. It's the most, incredibly, I can't even think how bad that is. And through that, he got this sexually transmitted disease, gave it to his pregnant wife. She eventually divorces him, but she's angry, and she has a right to be angry, wouldn't she? She's got this thing she's got to carry forever, and now she's got a little baby. But for 10 years, she'd been angry, and she'd been eating and just angry. The poor little kid grown up in that anger. And when she came to see me and she told me about this, I said, well, in your own head, just say, fuck it, I forgive you. Oh, I'm not going to do that. I can't forgive him. I said, have you seen him? I haven't seen him for 8 years. He's moved to some other country. He's probably doing it to someone else. And yet she was the one who was suffering, her and her boy. And she said, I can't forgive him. I said, even if you don't mean it, just say it in your head. I forgive you. So you can get on with your own life. And sometimes we just have to do it, especially if you're not going to see that person again. Because otherwise, all the time you're angry, all the time you're eating too much, all the time you're smoking those cigarettes because that person upset you, you're allowing them to continue to do you damage. And the opposite to that is living your best life. That's my thinking. But we can change when we understand this, because just choose our emotions on the basis of, does this emotion empower me or not? I do that with beliefs. There's this belief I'm holding. Does it empower me or disempower me? Because if it disempowers me, I understand I can choose to believe something else. Because none of it's real. None of it is real. It's all in our head. So a bit of change your state. If you're in a state which is slowing you down or stopping you from achieving what you want, break the state by doing some kind of physical exercise of some kind, dancing, running, jumping up and down the spot, screaming at the top of your voice. Break the state and then say, right, now that's the state I need to be in to achieve this goal. You know what that state is. Step into it. That's how I see it. It's no more complex than that. But we have to know how we want to feel. And we have to know why we want to feel it. And then we can go, okay, I'll choose to feel this way. Hope that makes sense to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and have any of you ever been in a state where you're feeling sorry for yourself? I'll get to you in a minute, Caitlin. Have any of you ever been in a state where you feel sorry for yourself? Nobody? Me and Maria are the only ones. Doreen, okay. So I had this a little bit recently, and what I found was that and this is part of the reason I got off social media, is because I found it to be a distraction from me being present with what state I'm in. So if you guys didn't see my post, I just deactivated everything for a bit. And what I noticed is I got into a little bit of not just oh, I'm feeling sorry for myself about a few things, but I'm starting to narrate that story. I'm imagining telling other people that story. I was imagining telling someone oh, I'm dealing with all these things. And I'm wait, that story in my head, what kind of a state is that putting me in? How am I feeling? What am I projecting to other people? And what am I attracting from that state? Right? And so when you can become aware of that state, then you can change it. But this isn't hypnosis is great, meditation's great, but if you get up from a meditation and then you go right back into that state, you're not any better, your life's not any better off. And so if you can moment to moment throughout the day bring awareness to oh, I'm in a good state, and then when that state shifts, you go, oh, what was that? Now I just started feeling sorry for myself. I was shifting into a different state. What just happened? And then you can bring yourself out of it. So one thing I started doing was I started setting a 5-minute timer on my watch. So I got a reminder every 5 minutes, oh, put myself into a state I want to be in, right? Am I shifting into a negative state? Is my self-talk shifted? Have I contracted my energy. And so that's just like a little reminder, like, oh, like what am I creating from this state? And one analogy I would use is like, how many of you drive a manual transmission vehicle? Anybody? Few? Oh, more than I expected. Everyone else knows what that is, yes? So when you shift into neutral, that's kind of like going into hypnosis or into trance. And so when you go into that neutral zone, you can shift into any gear from there. But imagine being in first gear and not going into neutral and trying to shift into a different gear, right? Like not pushing the clutch down and you're trying to like trying to force it into second gear. How many of you have ever done that where you're like, I'm not feeling good. Let me like try to pump myself up, and you're like, it just exhausts you. But when you put your foot on the clutch and you go into neutral, that's like going into trance, and then your imagination can take you into second gear. Everybody felt that in these experiences, right? Like if I just talked you through it, maybe you would go there, maybe you wouldn't. Maybe because I'm a hypnotist and you guys are a little bit attuned to me. But for most people, like to really get that state change, do that trance state. Imagine the experience, go into the body language, go into the facial expressions, breathe, you can speak it, and then shift into gear. And you'll feel your body shift, your thought patterns will shift, your capabilities will shift, right? Like stage fright is just a state. And it's a state that our society has anchored into people. And you can literally change that in a moment. But most of these have to be done. Caitlin's laughing. Was that what you were going to talk about, Caitlin? Most of these have to be done ahead of time. We don't practice as we're going out to perform, right? We practice ahead of time. So we want to train our minds and our state to perform ahead of time. Sarah, when you sit down to write your thing, if you're not in the right frame of mind, it's probably, I don't want to give you any negative thoughts, but it might not be the right time to try to change your state. But if you do it the night before and you imagine at this certain time, I sit down and I write and I imagine just downloading information and that feeling, that flow, then when you sit down, that state's going to fire. But you've practiced it, you've rehearsed it. We're not going to leave that to chance, right? This is your most important work. All right, Caitlin, yes.
So I have in a similar situation as Sarah with the website and such, but I've Sarah, it's amazing. Just push through. Don't push through, I guess. Let it go into the subconscious. But I'm like holding back on little details that I need to finish up. And really it's to prevent the, people seeing it, right? Because I'm not going to invite anyone to it until it's done. But the bigger state is just the overall resistance. So when I'm in the flow state, is the state I want to be in, the greatest flow I've been in, one of the greatest times would be my cooking classes. When I'm in person with people, and I went to tears. I've been thinking about it lately, how much I want to be back in person teaching. And I don't have a visible opportunity to do that right now. I don't even have a home or a city that I'm living in, like in a steady way. The city I've been in the last couple of months, my parents are moving. So I'm like in this total unknown situation. And so I know the state I want to be in, and I know what gets me there, but I don't know how to like physically get there. But it was super helpful because I can bring in those feelings and like the flower, the color, all of these things I associated with it. I can use that to do the online work, the classes virtually, to, bring more of the opportunities to be in person. But it was just like the flood of emotions was so beautiful.
So
Have you not tried to anchor that feeling?
No, I don't think
You
so.
you have a do
Not
you
in
have
that way.
have you used anchors?
In the retreats, we've done anchors. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you've got a positive anchor already, for whatever it might be, confidence or whatever, you can stack anchors.
Yeah. It's
So
so
if you can
different.
get into the state that you want to be in, which you say, you can access it, then just put it on that anchor. And when you need to be in that flow state, anchor the feeling, trigger that feeling. It's
Should
one
we
of the
have
best
Freddie?
things we can do.
Should we have Freddie set one up real quick for everybody?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So one thing first. So Caitlin, you mentioned you're like, I don't know how that's going to happen. Here's the thing.
No need to do it.
Maybe write this down. The how only comes when you're in the state. So Sarah, if you're like, how am I going to write this copy? How am I going to do this thing? It doesn't come from your conscious mind trying to figure out the how so you can create the thing and then you can feel the way you want to feel. You have to go into the feeling and then you're tapped into the thought patterns of the how. The how doesn't exist on the frequency of like the negative state, right? Like we try to consciously, like we're not feeling good. We're like, oh, I got to get this thing done. We try to get it done. But that's not how it works. We get stuck in this. How do I do this? Right? Like, and how many of you ever felt overwhelmed trying to figure out how to accomplish a big goal? It only comes from being in the state. And then when you take action, the how reveals itself. And so this is something I've really developed like trust in. Am I pausing a little bit on you guys, or is my Wi-Fi okay?
I think it's something like there's a saying about that. Like you can't be in the same frequency of the problem to find the solution. You have to be in a different frequency.
Well,
That's it.
I think what it is, the how is your conscious mind trying to figure something out.
Your analytical mind.
So you're then functioning at that conscious level. And the conscious mind, unfortunately, is the least effective part of our being. And the worst part is it believes it is us. It's like the captain. It's like the captain of a ship trying to do everything himself and believes that he's the only person that can get to where he wants to go. He's not listening to the crew. He's not focused on how the ship is, running mechanically. He's just got a sole purpose on getting to a space. And that's what our conscious mind's like. It's really limited. And whereas your unconscious mind is not. So what Nick is talking about is the art of letting go for it. Trusting that if you relax into the flow state, let your unconscious mind make those decisions, and then trust, as Nick used the word, trust when those thoughts come to you, that they've come from the right place. If you're consciously trying to think about something, you're in that conscious state, and it's such a limiting part of our being. It might make a decision, but that when you're in the how to, then it's your conscious mind that's working. Whereas if you allow your unconscious mind, by sitting quietly and just relaxing and just making the statement about, this is what I want, and I'd like my subconscious mind, my unconscious mind, to give me the answer, it will come to you. And one of the best ways to do it is just before you go to sleep at night. As you're dropping off to sleep, say, I want my unconscious mind to give me an answer to this problem. And then what happens is you go into that sleep state, you wake up in the morning, and you probably forgot about the instruction you gave your unconscious mind. You might just be brushing your teeth or you're washing up, and suddenly you'll get the answer. But it's not just having the answer, it's trusting your unconscious mind. Trust that that answer is the right answer. What I say to my clients is that if you ask that question of your subconscious, you will get an answer. But it might not be the answer you want, but it'll be the right thing to do. Does that make sense? Now, because it's not always the easy thing that we want, but the answer will come to you. I had a friend, Julian, and years ago, this is a long time ago, 15, 20 years ago, he's a guy he wasn't a guy that would have affairs or anything like that. He was single, but he ended up seeing two girls at the same time. And one of these girls flew jumbo jets, so, and she was like real business and real focus and really educated and this great job. And his other girlfriend was a girl called Wendy, who was a single mum with two kids, but she was fun. But he knew from a marriage point of view that Jane, or whatever her name was, who flew the jumbo jet, should be the perfect wife for him because he was a businessman. And he came to me with this problem. He said, I've got these two girls. He said, no, I'm not this kind of person. I don't want to be doing this. So he said, I said, well, look, just sit quietly. I'll take you into hypnosis, ask your unconscious mind to tell you the right thing to do. He opened his eyes, said, what's the name? And he went, Wendy. I said, okay, great. And he said, oh, but, and I thought, I can't help you. He immediately started a questionnaire, right? And I met him 6 months later again. And I said, you know, what's going on in your life? He said, they both gave me the big E in the end because I couldn't make my mind up. So he ended up with none of them in the end. But what I'm saying is if he asked the question, and then he said to me, but you know what? I think I should have been with Wendy. I said, what was the name that came up in the chair, Jill? He went, it was Wendy, wasn't it? I said, yeah. You know, but he immediately started to question that answer. So when you ask the question, whatever that answer is, trust that it's the right thing to do and do it. We have this incredible warehouse of knowledge that's there for us to tap into. We just got to ask the question and trust the answer, what comes up.
Luckily, no one here ever doubts their subconscious intuitions, right? We're all tapped in and we take our own advice, right? Freddie, you want to take us through a state anchoring thing?
Yeah, think about the state you want to be in, the perfect state for you for whatever's coming up for you next. You know, you've just pretty much stated how you want to be, Caitlin. You know, and for you, Andrea, be in that state of, you know, happiness and joy that I love about you. Forget about everything else. And just as a tip for everybody, if you are going to get a mechanic, make sure he's not a psychotic narcissist. That is not the best person to be mending your car, okay? But thanks for the tip, Andrea. And so get into the perfect state that you want to be in to achieve what you want to achieve next, okay? So this is what's going to happen. First, we need two things. We need a physical anchor and a trigger word. So it can be putting your finger and thumb together, crossing your fingers, squeezing your ear, but something you're going to do specifically to trigger this state that you want to experience, okay? I don't have to know what it is, but if you've got one, you all got an anchor. And we need a trigger word. It can be the name of a person, name of a place, name of an object, but one word you're going to use to trigger this state. All right? Have you all got one? I don't know if you need to know what it is. Right, this is what's going to happen. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to get into that state. And to do it, we need three things: breathing, posture, internal dialogue. In other words, if when you're in that state of flow, you're standing up, I want you to stand up. If you're sitting down, that's fine. If you're lying down, then I want you to get as close to that position as you can, all right? But I want you to adopt the posture. And then I'm going to ask you to breathe how you breathe when you're in that state. So whatever that might be. And then I want you to say what you'd say to yourself when you're in that state. I can do this. I'm brilliant. Whatever it might be that holds you in that state of flow or kindness or joy or whatever it might be.
So Freddie, you want us to say Freddie can do this? Freddie is brilliant? Is that what you're...
Well, you just said it. See, you couldn't help
Okay,
yourself,
it's
could
working.
you?
It's working.
Yeah, it's working already. Yeah. So try not to think about it too much. And so you get into the state, and then when you're in it, I want you to put that anchor on. So whatever it is. Now, are you all going to use your hands to do this? Yeah. Then I want you to just let me know where I can see your hand. Okay. When you get into it and get in the state, let me know. I'm going to say, keep that feeling going, hear the trigger word, and I'm going to count for 7 or 8 seconds because that's pretty much as long as you can keep that at that height. I'll then say, let go of the anchor and open your eyes. We clear the screen and we do this 3 times. Now, each time that feeling's going to get stronger. And on the 3rd time, whatever you're feeling when you put that anchor on is a feeling that's going to be anchored into that gesture forever. So make it the most incredible, powerful feeling, because I won't know. If it's a mediocre feeling, I won't know. And all you're going to trigger is a mediocre feeling. But I want you to understand that while we're together here, you're all that matters to me. And I want you to really get into that feeling, really feel it, okay? Now I'm going to take you into trance first. It's going to make you easy to do it. And you're all great subjects. So when you're ready to get into the state and anchor the feeling, take a breath in, hold it for a moment. As you breathe out, if you haven't already, allow your eyes to close and go back to that feeling. Remember where you were. Feel what you felt then. See what you saw then. Hear what you heard then. Breathe how you breathe when you're in that flow state, when you can do anything, achieve anything. And say what you say to yourself when you're in that state. Really get that feeling up. Breathe it in. Breathing in confidence and breathing out doubt. Breathing in that feeling of determination and freedom and breathing out doubt. And get that feeling flooding through your body. Imagine it's happening. Breathe how you breathe. See what you see. Hear what you'd hear. And say what you say to yourself. When you absolutely feel it, that's right. Only when you absolutely feel it, let me know by putting that anchor on. That's right. And hear that trigger word in your mind. Keep that feeling going. Feel it even stronger. Breathing in that feeling. Breathing out doubt. Breathing in confidence, breathing out doubt. You can do anything, you can achieve anything. Okay, let go of the anchor and open your eyes. Is that a good feeling? Right, okay, we're going to do it again. It's going to be even stronger this time. That's right, shake it out, Blan. Ready? Take that breath in. As you breathe out, go into that beautiful state of trance where everything becomes possible. Feel yourself just dropping into that space. And step back into that feeling, the state you want to feel at any time. Breathe it in. Breathe how you breathe when you're in that state. Say what you say to yourself when you're in that state. That's right. And really feel it. Get it even stronger. Feel it flooding through your body. That's right. Move how you'd move. Breathe how you breathe. Say what you say to yourself. And when you absolutely feel it, only then put that anchor on and feel it even stronger. And say that trigger word to yourself. Keep that feeling going. Feel it flooding through your body, filling you up, lighting you up, lifting you up. Feel it even stronger. You can do anything. You can achieve anything. You are free. Let go of the anchor. Open your eyes. Right, it's feeling, looks great. I don't know where you were, Sarah, at Glastonbury or somewhere. I don't know where it was you were dancing, but it looks pretty cool. Right, right. So we're going to do it one more time. Ready? This time, we're going to anchor it forever. So make sure it's the most incredible, wonderful feeling in exactly the right state to create the life you truly want. Ready? Take that breath in. Hold it as you breathe out. Go even deeper into that state. Get a sense of that happening. Dropping into that state of empowerment that you find in trance, where you can do anything, you can achieve anything, where every limitation's gone, every irrational fear's gone, every negative emotion's gone. Get into that state. Feel it now. Now go into that state you want to achieve, that you want to feel. Breathe it in. Breathe how you breathe when you're in that state. See what you see. Hear what you'd hear. Feel what you feel. And say what you say to yourself when you're in that state. And really feel it flooding through your body. And once again, only when you're in that beautiful space, in that state of empowerment, only then let me know that's right. And hear that trigger word in your mind. Feel that feeling even stronger. And from today, whenever you put that anchor on and say that word to yourself, you will instantly go back to this state you're in now. From today, no matter where you are, what you're doing, you put that anchor on, you hear that word in your mind, you will instantly go back to this state of empowerment. From today, whenever you want to feel this state of empowerment where you can do anything, achieve anything, you put that anchor on, you hear that word, you'll instantly go back to this incredible feeling because now it belongs to you. Let go of the anchor, open your eyes. Excellent. Okay, brilliant. I want you to all do this for me. Just take a breath, kind of clear the screen. And when you're ready, I want you to put that anchor on. Don't close your eyes. Put that anchor on. Hear that word in your mind. See what happens in your body. That's right. See on Caitlin's face, see on Bline's face, instantly go back to that space where you can achieve what you want to achieve. Remember the anchor, remember the word, look at Nick's face. And now you have it. And, and the joy of it, you can stack anchors. So if that was a feeling of empowerment or confidence or silly determination, and you want to feel, when you feel that, you want to also feel total confidence or joy or calm, the next time you're in that bath and you've got your glass of wine on the side, you've got your candles lit, and you're laying there in those bubbles and you're feeling completely calm and peace. Remember the anchor and put it on. Use the trigger word. And now when you trigger that empowered state, you also trigger that feeling of calm. So if you think there's things you can stack on that anchor, you don't want really excited and really calm at the same time. That would be a bit weird. But if you think those emotions can go together, confidence and steely determination, or confidence and joy, or whatever it might be, you can stack these anchors. So when you trigger one feeling, you also trigger that other feeling. Because now you have it. I'm looking forward to seeing your website. I'm glad to see you smiling again, Andrea. It's a smile that I love. So, just keep that going. And remember, we can choose our emotions because none of it exists outside of our head. Choose our emotions on the basis, does this emotion I'm feeling empower me? Or does it disempower me? And make that choice. Nick was talking about neutral. A neutral is a state. Most of the big decisions we make in our life are made in an emotional state. And when we're emotional, we're not functioning optimally. You're not functioning optimally when you're angry. I say it, and my son always cringes when I say it, but so never decide to get married when you're madly in love with someone. That's not the time to make that decision. When you can't wait to jump their bones. That is not the time to make that decision. Wait till you're 3 or 4 months in, you're having a cup of tea together. You don't know what to say to each other. And if you think, I want to spend a life with this person, make that decision then, not when you're madly crazy in love. And so if you have to make a big decision, go into that state of neutral. Just that's not I don't care. It's kind of indifference. Because in neutral, you can make the right decision. You can take the right actions, get the right outcome. And we can choose. We can get to that state. Maybe, next week we'll run through what I call TPM, total perception management, where you can take back complete control of your emotions. And you can trigger that feeling at any time. So in any state where you need to think straight, you can take yourself to neutral, make the right decision, take the right actions, and then get the right outcome. But now you have an anchor. I fully expect you all to be flying, flowing, cooking, websiting, joy and happiness. Great.
A lot of smiles today, Freddie.
Yeah. Well, we've got a great group here.
I said that, and then Andrea tried to conceal her smile. She's like, not me.
All right. Okay.
Neutral is your least favorite feeling, Caitlin? That's funny.
You don't
All
have to
right,
stay in it for
excellent.
long. You just don't have to, only have to stay when you make a decision, or if you're experiencing emotion that doesn't suit you, go to neutral and then make a new decision. Make it, decide what emotion you want to feel and feel it. Total control of our emotions. It's the next step in our evolution.
Sarah.
You know how you were talking about movement, Freddie? Like, to change state, move your body.
Yeah.
Well, I second that. And the one thing that I've learned through all kinds of trainings and programs over the years is shaking. Like just shake your body. Shake, especially first thing in the morning, like getting out that nervous energy. Maybe you've had a bad dream or you've got something to tackle that day, or your brain starts, our brains start going first thing in the morning, and just kind of shake it out. Like I'll do a whole, like like balance on my toes, like lift my heels, not like a full jump, but just kind of like lifting the heels. And I'll just do that and just shake for like a minute.
Yeah,
And
I like to twerk. I
I
find
mean,
that works for me.
if your low back can handle that, by all means. I don't recommend that unless your low back's really
Yeah.
Let's
It
do a
does
quick,
go-
let's
it
try
doesn't go
something real
down
quick.
too well when you're waiting for a bus, but it does change the state for sure.
I've seen way too many videos of twerking where people end up falling into candles and breaking mirrors. I'm like, I'm good. I'll just watch.
Sarah, let's try something real quick. And everybody, you can do this. So I want you to put your hands on your lap and you can close your eyes for this. It's just going to take a moment. But just imagine your body is just really rigid and locked in place. And while you hold that rigidity, not yet, but in a moment, I'm going to have you just imagine moving your body like you're at the most intense rave of your life. Like just flailing and just letting go. Don't actually move, but just imagine moving and notice the emotions in you. So go ahead, imagine seeing those strobe lights, hearing that music pulsing, and imagine just letting your body go completely wild. Like just imagine dancing, jumping, flailing, whatever you're doing. Like really let go. This is the most ecstatic rave experience of your entire life. But don't move your body, just do it in your mind and notice what happens in your energy field. Notice how incredible you're starting to feel. That's right. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. I've never done that before. What did you guys think? Did you feel it? Caitlin like couldn't sit still. It was all right. You don't even have to actually do it. You just have to imagine doing it.
Like, I want to do that more. Like experiment with that in different dance styles and everything.
We'll do a
think there's
mental
something
rave
there.
one day.
Yeah.
Nick, you brought me back to like high school going to raves, and I couldn't help but smile because it's wild.
Mm-hmm.
It's so that wild energy, like you can infuse. I didn't think about doing it without actually moving. That's pretty cool.
Doreen's got her hand up.
Doreen, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, so last weekend there was this festival, but yeah, my son is only 17 and he's really into hardcore something. And yeah, we watched a few because it was streamed live on YouTube, and we definitely saw the final and it was just like unreal. So yeah, it just brought me right back because yeah, it was just so amazing. So it was really fresh in my memory, and it was just, it's not really my kind of music, but you know, anything that will have
Yeah.
a good beat, strong beat. Yeah, it was good. Thank
Good.
you.
Thanks for sharing. And Blaine?
Well, that was my first ever rave. Thanks.
Hope it was good.
Brilliant. Now I know what everyone's on about.
Okay. Now you don't have to go. You know what it's like.
I think I'm going to be building a mental movement series beginning with this one.
You good?
I think
Yeah.
we should have our own rave.
I agree.
Yeah.
So just laying in bed in the morning, just imagine you're at like, just do this before you get out of bed and like let your energy, you know, and you're like, I don't feel like getting out of bed yet. Just do the mental rave. This might be a thing. I should do an audio with music and be a good way to start the day. All right. Well, in the States, tomorrow we celebrate our independence from all of you across the pond. So enjoy your holiday weekend. And for those in the UK, no, I'm just kidding. It's been great seeing everybody. Thanks, Freddie, for that. I'm definitely feeling that state right now.
Good. Great stuff. Remember to use your anchor. Now you've got it. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
It feels good to know you are the master of your state, isn't it?
You're the hypnotist of your life. The hypnotist of your own life.
All right, everyone. Much love. Have a great weekend.
Yeah.
See you next week.
Now.
Happy holiday.
Hi, everyone.
Thank
Happy
you.
holiday.
Bye.
Happy